Welcome to Horror Makes Us Happy, the podcast where we ask the question, what is it about horror that makes us happy? Your hosts are Steve Becker and myself, Chris Whitman, and you can find out more about us at horrormakesushappy.com. Today's guest is Jeremiah Rosario. He is best known for, let's say, short film Cat Sick Blues, Sick Blues. Did I get that right?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay. And also 13th Floor Productions. It's a movie review website, right?
Yes, it is.
Awesome. All right. How you doing, Jeremiah? Good to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chris. I just want to say I really love your voice, and I want you to read me a bedtime story.
Yes. It's called Go the Fuck to Sleep by Sam Jackson. And already dropping F-bombs before the disclaimer. Awesome. I'm good at this.
I'm a bad influence on you, Chris.
It's true. It's true. Before we get started, a little information for you and the listeners. Here are your trigger warnings. We're going to be talking about horror movies, which could involve anything from murder, rape, suicide, child abuse. There will be F-bombs. There it is. So if you're not prepared for that, please take care of yourself and come back when you're ready. And now that I've said all that, fuck, shit, cunt, piss.
Cocksucker, motherfucker.
There you go. Yeah, things in order.
Darn it.
Gosh darn it, all the heck.
Oh no, not the H word.
Yeah, so basically in the interview, we're going to be asking 3 sets of questions covering your childhood, teenage years, and adulthood to find out what it is about horror that you like. The idea is what you like, and also possibly some things to, that were on the opposite side of what you like what scared you.
Yeah, but that's what I like.
So you got both going on at the same time.
Those two things coincide with each other, man.
That's the whole point. Find out why. Why?
All right, let me lay down on the couch, and I guess
right.
Let's get to
that brings us to our next point. That being said, this isn't meant to be a therapy session. So if there are any questions that you don't want to answer, it cuts too deep or whatever, just say I'll pass on that one and we'll move on.
So we can't talk about my fetishes?
I mean, you can if you want.
If you want to. Yeah, we've had our trigger warning. Go ahead and let the fetishes fly, man. You like foot shit?
Yeah, man. That's actually what I wanted to. I was going to complain. We don't have enough foot shit in horror at all, or just in cinema, really.
Clearly, you've never seen a Quentin Tarantino movie, sir.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that one. That was like a really obvious, low hanging fruit right there. But who's going to take up the mantle after that? You know what I mean?
You.
I guess I could.
There you go.
Yeah. Let me write this down.
Be the change you want to see in the world.
My next short film.
What change you want to see in the world?
We'll be featured on youporn.com.
All right, so we're going to start this off with childhood. What are some of your earliest memories of scary things when you were a kid?
My religion.
Okay, that's a good one. That's good.
So I grew up in a very religious household, Christian household.
I can relate.
Yeah, and though I'm still I subscribe to a lot of that faith, I'm definitely disconnected from the religion, the dogma and all that stuff. But growing up, it was more just a total pain in the ass. Like I didn't want to go to church. I wanted to stay home and watch Ren and Stimpy. With the religion aspect of it, the only part that I was really into was like all the really dark stuff that you'd like find in the Bible, like at the back of the book.
Revelations. That's where all the good stuff is.
Revelations. Yeah, that's where all the good stuff is, man. So
what was it? A giant horned beast with 7 heads and 12 diadems or something like that?
Yeah, when are we getting that movie? Yeah, Passion of the Christ. Come on, man, give us Revelations. I
think they kind of touched on that in This Is the End. That was a big
they
devil
did. They did a little bit. Yeah,
lots of heads, lots of horns.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I think that's been in a couple movies, really.
Yeah, so I think that stuff. I already knew I had this kind of dark sensibility, and that stuff really intrigued me. And I just gravitated to all that stuff. Not because I was like, I want to become some like crazy ass like occultist or some shit. Like I don't know. It's always fascinating. I don't know. I think it is.
It's the forbidden fruit, if you will.
Yeah, man. Yeah. That's it. Pretty much. As far as what scared me as a kid, I mean, at that point, when you grow up in a very conservative household, pretty much everything, man. Like, like most of my diet that was with my parents was like PG rated stuff. So if I saw anything even like just remotely scary, like Jaws was scared the shit out of me. You know what I mean? Like that's what rated PG.
I think it
Granted,
is.
PG-13 is it now? Because of I know it came out way before the PG-13 rating, but
Yeah, I think it was rated PG back then, and the rating system was a lot looser back then. So
I definitely can relate to you because so I was raised by my grandmother, who was the head lector of our church.
oh wow,
And before he passed away, my grandfather was the deacon, one of the deacons of the church.
Literally.
And so, and I'm half Polish. My grandmother spoke Polish, so on certain Sundays, because she didn't believe in babysitters, why do that when she could just bring me to church, make me sit in the first pew in the church, so she could keep an eye on me while she's reading the mass.
There you go, man. Steve, how long were your I guess the whole session at church, like the services?
So, like the average hour?
Yeah, like how long did they run for?
Well, that was the thing, is on the days that she was reading the English Mass and the Polish Mass, I'd have to sit through 4 Masses on one Sunday.
No, thank you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I thought I was going to have you beat. Like, the one I used to go to was like 3 hours. Oh my God. It just, this is kind of horror related. I had an exorcism performed on me.
What?
Yes.
What? Really?
Yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot this. Yeah.
As a child?
As a child.
How old were you?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't even have a recollection.
Okay, wait. Before we get into the exorcism, what did you do that made them think you needed one?
I was lactose intolerant. That was the whole. You think I was completely misdiagnosed here. It's not demons. Wow. It was milk. So
that happens a lot with religion. The whole science thing gets thrown by the wayside, and they're like, "Devils, yep, you got devils inside you."
Yeah, man.
I hate to ask this question, but I have to. Was this in the U.S.? Were you born in the U.S. Or did this happen somewhere else and then you came here?
This is the U.S., but
Bible Belt.
No, actually, this is New York.
I was going to say, yeah. Did you not hear his accent? Come on.
Cool.
And I'm half Puerto Rican, half Dominican, which are there's a lot of religion in both those cultures, big time, and you combine them, and it's this kind of like explosion of that stuff. So So I mean, they thought because I was acting up and screaming and rolling on the ground after, like, I guess being fed from the bottle or whatever.
You mean as a baby?
Yeah, that's like really young. Okay.
Okay. I thought you were like 6 or 7 years old and acting up or something.
I don't remember that. So they they did their version of an exorcism, and I don't know. It obviously didn't cure me. I can't drink milk still. Maybe the demons are gone, but or they put the demons in me. I'm like more into horror than I've ever been. But I don't know, man. Yeah, that's just one of those things. I think religion just is a really good a bedfellow for horror. I really do think that that's the case. As much as religion likes to kind of like denounce that stuff, it's just weird how well they kind of work together.
Well, yeah, it kind of has it built in, I mean, you have your good versus evil battle right from the go, and you have your classic villain, and it also depends on religion too. There are many different facets, but they all do kind of share that dichotomy of good versus evil. I mean, except Buddhism.
No. Well, also Shinto. Yeah. Shinto's more about harmony with nature.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
ruling out existential altruism religions. How about that?
Just quickly, what part of New York City or?
Yeah, I grew up in Queens, in Astoria specifically, and then we eventually moved over to Flushing. But yeah, man, you wouldn't think like this kind of stuff. Oh, New York is as liberal and as it is, and that shit's everywhere, man.
There's conservative people everywhere. Yeah. I moved around a lot, but that particular stuff about church was in Chicago. I went to high school in Jersey, just on the other side of the bay. Mm-hmm. So we've got religion, Jaws. Well, how old were you when you saw Jaws?
Yeah,
maybe like 8 or 9.
Okay, so definitely childhood
Yeah,
there.
let me tell you, that wasn't actually the first horror film I watched as a kid. It was The Shining. It's on my profile on Letterboxd. But basically, what it was is my dad had rented it. Him and my mom were watching it, and I woke up in the middle of the night while they were watching it. Kind of snuck behind them through the living room. I went through the kitchen, and I was like behind the couch. Excuse me. I was there. I kind of walked in just as, like, that part where Danny, he's in bed and he's got his mouth like wide open. He's just like, he's seeing all the blood coming out of the elevator and all the visions happening. And just before he passes out, it's kind of early on.
Back of his head.
Yeah, that whole thing. I ended up screaming when that part happened. It caused my parents to turn around.
Busted.
Yeah, like, what are you? First of all, I said, "What are you doing watching horror films?" You said, "I can't watch this shit because this is not allowed." But yeah, they were watching it. Yeah, my dad he grabbed me, spanked me, and then sent me off to bed. And so, like, trauma, I was like spanked, and I had this thing in my head, and
how dare you?
Yeah, right.
Anything else jump out at you as being memorable?
As a child, we had this one sleepover when I was like 12 at my best friend's house, and he had rented this movie called Candyman. And okay, cool, let's watch Candyman. So I'm watching it. As anyone who's watched that movie knows, it takes place in the projects, Cabrini Green, and so right away I'm like, this is new territory for me. You know what I mean? For a horror film, I'm like, wow, this is intense. This is right outside my window. The fact that Candyman was, attacking these people living in the projects, it made it way more real for me. And it scared the absolute hell out of me, man. I mean, it was so bad. I got to a point where midway through, the woman who gets, she's basically gutted and left there kind of just like splayed open, and her face turns pale and she's just left on the ground. And the image of that, it was like a black woman who, like, all the blood had been emptied out of her body. Her face was like white. I mean, I remember just being paralyzed by that. And I didn't even want to get up to even press stop on the VCR. I remember finally gathering the courage to stop the movie, and I threw on Looney Tunes instead. And,
of course,
I needed to chase that movie down with that.
Yeah, palate cleanser.
Yeah, and I ended up. It took me, man, maybe 2 or 3 years before I came back to it. That's how messed up I was from, like, I didn't even want to utter the name Candyman. It really messed me up. Yeah, yeah, especially 5 times or however many times it was that you got to say it. So what happened was, years later, I'm talking about, like, I'm in my 30s now, I got to meet Tony Todd, and at a festival, and I thanked him, actually. I said, hey, you gave this lower class people and people living in the projects a horror icon for themselves finally. I'm like, we didn't have that, really. Nothing like, that was, I guess, as big as Candyman was. And I thanked him, and he didn't even, I guess that never occurred to him. He was like, yeah, he was like, holy shit, you're right. He goes, what? He's like, wow, man, thank you for that story. And he gave me a hug, and he's just like, wow, that's, and I think by having that conversation with him, I finally kind of
brought closure to that whole thing.
Yeah, man. I was like, okay, he's a nice guy. Yeah. He's not going to kill me.
Plus, it puts an interesting twist on it to that. You told him about that, and he hadn't thought of that before. Like, I taught Tony Todd something today. I taught Candyman.
Yeah, it was something I'll never forget. But that's probably the most, like, profound horror experience I've had as a child. It was with Candyman. Yeah,
sounds like it. All right, so that did go off on a tangent through adolescence and kind of into adulthood. Backtrack a little bit. We got just a few more questions in childhood here. Could have been stemmed from something like Candyman, or I guess if it's back in childhood, more religion. But do you have any scary dreams as a child that you remember?
Scary dreams as a child. Yeah, there was actually one I had. This isn't going to even make any sense, but it's a dream, so whatever. And it was still when I lived in the projects. I had this. It was a reoccurring one, where we had these bunk beds in my room. It was me and my sister, and she was in the bottom bunk. I was on the top. And I remember waking up in the dream. I woke up in the dream, and in the corner of our bedroom, there's a rocking chair, and there was a decaying old woman, with white stringy hair, and she's sitting in there, sitting on the chair, and her eyes all recessed and everything, and she's just kind of rocking back and forth. Her skin is like she looks like a corpse that was like exhumed or something, like just gone. And I remember like the moonlight coming in through our window, and her skin kind of lit blue by that. And I remember getting up from my bed and looking at her and realizing I had to get out of the room. I started making my way down the bunk bed, and my sister, who was she was on the bottom. She kind of looked up at me, and I like kind of motioned for her to leave. So she ran, and when she ran, this old woman was like tracking her as she left the room, and then her head, it snapped back to me, and I just froze on the stairs. I ended up jumping down, went into my sister. She has this she had this little pouch where there was like toys and everything, and I grabbed this and I don't know if you remember these things, but maybe this was just a New York thing. But there was like these toy ice cream cones that you press a button, it shoots the ice cream out of it, like with a string, and then since it's a string, you pull it back, put it in. It's like a ice cream gun, I guess. I don't know. But I took that thing, and I remember shooting it at her. I guess I'm a kid, that was like my weapon. It didn't do anything. So
I forgot to say this is battery acid.
Yeah, and then I was like, all right, I'm just gonna make a run for it. And when I tried to run, her arm extended the way like Freddy Krueger's did in the first film, and she just knocked me back into my sister's bed. She stood up and started to transform, and from across the room, like her arm must have extended like 12 feet, and like just face palm, boom, right in, knocked me down. And then she stood up and transformed, kind of the way you remember the librarian in Ghostbusters? Yeah, like that, just like like she just came alive. And and then I shit my pants naturally. And, I woke up, and I've had that. I had that dream so many times. And I remember there was even one time when I had the dream, and I'm like, I'm not shooting with the ice cream because that's probably what's triggering her. And I remember that just completely backfiring. It didn't do anything.
Do you have the same dream multiple times, and it was always the same beginning scenario? Like you wake up, she's over in the rocking chair, you try to climb down, and you're like, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, because I remember I kept telling myself in the dream, I wasn't aiming the ice cream cone right or something. I really got to I got to nail her. I got to get her with this thing. And no. And then finally I was like, all right, no ice cream cone. I'm just going to run. And that just ended up being worse. But,
apparently, it's not like one of those boss fights where you're not supposed to fight the boss. You're just supposed to run and survive until it gets you to the next level. Yeah, not that one.
Yeah, it's like the end of Super Metroid. You just got to die to survive, and then you can kick her ass after. Yeah, no, that's the only dream I could think of right now. As a child, I have one as an adult that is pretty terrible, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. All right.
So to go back to the movies for a minute, did you know that you were supposed to be excited by them, or that they were entertainment, or like, did you not know that and you were just terrified?
I didn't even think that deep into it. It's just, it's kind of like you can't help who you fall in love with, right? So it's the same thing. It's just, I was just gravitating towards this stuff because there was something in me that just found it so fascinating and compelling. And I guess when you have a visceral reaction to something, you keep revisiting it, and trying to see, you want to experience the feeling again. So maybe it's like a high, adrenaline rush. And
yeah, I mean, especially with the Shining, because that was kind of a forbidden cut-off thing from the get-go. You woke up in a time you weren't supposed to be awake, and you saw something you weren't supposed to be watching.
Yeah, I went from my bed and got thrown into like the deepest end of the pool. It was it's like ridiculous, man.
I mean, it could have been worse. You could have walked in on the room 237 bathroom part.
Oh my god, yeah. And then we'd be talking about why I've never had sex since then, or
why I can't go to
sex. Yeah. Or I can't go to the bathroom anymore.
Yeah.
Did any of your, friends or family or relatives or whatever that was watching these things with you tease you about it, or did they were they scared with you? I mean, you mentioned the one where they were all asleep, but were there any other experiences where you guys were awake and went through it together?
Oh yeah, plenty of times. I mean, anytime we watched in a group, anyone who was watching a horror movie with me, we were just all about it. You know what I mean? It's no different than any other community. So we watched it as entertainment, and I don't think like I said, other than Candyman, I don't think and The Shining as a kid, but we've never really scared by that stuff. It was just kind of more high-fiving each other, and we like the adrenaline rush, and I think what we were looking for in a horror film back then changed to what I'm looking for out of one now. So back then we're just like, the higher the body count, the better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So like real surface level things, but
lots of red stuff. Very entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
That is still in childhood, right?
This is still childhood, yeah.
Other than the high body count, was there anything else that you enjoyed about these things?
Escapism, I guess. My life, other than when we were living, and you know what? Even when I lived in the projects, my parents did a hell of a job shielding me from the trash that was happening in the real world outside of the apartment. It was like a kind of like a safe way to experience it, to kind of be dangerous without having to actually be hurt by it. So, I think that was another thing we liked about it, just kind of escaping to another world. And going back to what I said about the whole middle class thing, it was like the first white people we seen, like, it's like, whoa, wow, look at that house, like, what the hell?
I see.
Like,
so
Mom,
at an early
Dad,
age, you were taught white people are dumb and like to go investigate scary noises.
and rich. And so like, Mom, Dad, you better step your game up. Like, what the hell, man? We didn't even know what the hell summer camp. Like, what the hell is this? People want to go into the woods and like no AC, and I'm like, this is some weird shit, bro. I'm like, I don't know. So,
so you leave your TV and computers and phones at home, and you go into the woods and sleep in a tent. Why?
Yeah, it made no sense to me. I remember part of my childhood. My mom did try to get us out of the city. She sent me and my best friend over to, well, it wasn't her, his mom. They worked together to conspired against us, and sent us to Pennsylvania, like backwoods area there. And it was called the Fresh Air Fund. Basically, it's just a way for city kids to kind of experience, life in the country. And they put you up in a house with someone, who's going to take care of you and show you how things work in their world. And that was hell, man. Like, I would never want to do that again. I remember telling my mom years later about it, and she's like, "Oh my God, I didn't know it was that bad." I'm like, "I'm sure, you meant well, but it was horrible."
Was it like Amish country? Like,
yeah, just like that, man. First, like, the electricity worked half the time. I actually churned butter. I didn't even know. Like, I always thought it was like a joke or something. Like, oh, churning butter. Like, holy shit, I'm churning butter right now. What the hell? And she was also the woman we were with. She, I thought my mom was very religious, but this woman was like, she took it to the next level. So our TV viewing was like, man, it made me appreciate even what I had before. And what was cool, though, was that we had some older kids staying with us, who knew how to skirt around all these limitations. And when she went to bed, these guys would come down to our room, wake us up and say, "Hey, we're going to throw on Nightmare on Elm Street. Hey, we're going to watch Lost Boys." So we were able to still get our little horror fix here and there, thanks to them. And I don't even think I would have made it, without them. It was just, oh God, I know I sound like I can imagine someone who is used to living in the country and hearing the city boy like me, like, oh my God, shut up. Like, oh, no AC for one day. But yeah, man, it was such a radical experience. Like, the difference was just so great compared to what I was, my lifestyle before that. So took a lot of adjustment. I wish I could I wish I could give it back. I can't even say it made me a better person. I wish I could just take it out of my brain.
Yeah, there's a good way to expose kids to different things, and not just being nature. I mean, in general,
Right.
Exposing to kids to things that they're not familiar with. There's a good way to do it and a bad way to do it, and if not done well, it's going to wind up having a negative impact on them, not the positive one that you planned on.
No. This is perfectly acceptable. This is like basically the social environment equivalent of when you teach a child to swim by just throwing them in the pool.
Yeah, that was basically like what happened with me in horror and Shining, except happened to me now with with some life stuff. It was something else. Yeah, I would never do that to my kids. I'm trying to think of something else, but you may have to probe some more to kind of jog my memory.
Did you participate in Halloween as a kid?
Yeah.
When my mom wasn't paying attention. So like we had this, it was called the community center during the summer. And they also had it during the fall, but it was more of like an after school program, kind of like the YMCA. All right. So there was one October where they decided to take it upon themselves, to celebrate Halloween and let us participate in that. They asked, "Hey, are you allowed?" And of course, I said yes. Yeah, no, my mom won't let me. Yeah, hell yeah! It's like, yeah, we love Halloween in my house. So they had like different little props and things like that, like fake vampire teeth and all those kind of things.
Those classic fake vampire teeth that cut the inside of your cheek.
Yeah. Oh my god, I hated those things, man. But yeah, so we had all those things, and they gave it to us, and we opened the packaging and dressed however we wanted and took pictures. But it wasn't until I was an adult, moved out, before I can do anything as far as participating, in any Halloween activities, All Saints Day or otherwise, it just anything. Yeah. So no, that really that wasn't a part of my life as a kid.
Okay. So going into teenage years, what were some of your more memorable experiences with horror in the teenage years?
Things got a little more interesting when I became a teenager. We had this theater that at this point I had already moved out the projects. My mom remarried, and we moved into the suburbs. Mm-hmm. And finally, like, hey, I'm in the same thing that I saw happen in Halloween and same kind of place. So. Mm-hmm. Now those movies become scary.
Yeah, now they can hit home, literally.
Right? Yeah, like Candyman could kiss my ass. Now I got to worry about all these other ones.
You can't get me no more.
Yeah, so my exposure to horror, like I actually was exposed to more extreme versions of horror films. Like we have these neighbors that were basically allowed to watch whatever they wanted to. During the day, they were watching porn on their TV, living room TV. Yeah, I am not making this up.
Like he would just come over and they'd be like, "Hey, what's up? Yeah, it's gangbang."
Yeah. Bang Bros on the. No, but yeah. So my mom said you're allowed to go to that side. You're on the other side of the fence, but you can't go to their house. Like you can't go inside
because they got porn on the TV.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of porn over there. So we mostly stayed outside, played basketball. They had this basketball hoop and that kind of stuff. But finally, I was brave enough to just be like, "Hey, man, we're always just outside. Let's go inside and like get some drinks and watch some movies." He's like, "All right, yeah, sure." So we went inside and. I was like, all right, yes. Like what are we going to put on? I was so excited. And the first movie or horror movie that I saw at their house was Evil Dead.
Nice.
Yeah, that was the first time I saw that movie, and oh my god, I feel like it changed my life. That I just didn't know the genre could go to those levels. Like it could be scary and funny at the same time, be like absolutely just graphic violence, but still have heart. Like it was a weird mix of stuff in that, and I think it just cemented me further as like a horror fan. Like that one was probably my Candyman experience as a teenager. Mm-hmm. And after that, I took it upon myself to start looking for horror movies that were similar to that. And I was limited. We didn't have internet access at the time. So the way I did it was, at the library rented out, you could rent VHS tapes at my local library.
I thought you were going to go with the ShopRite.
I was going to say Grindhouse, local
grind.
Yeah.
Great place. So I went to the library, and my mom wouldn't let me rent, R-rated movies or anything like that.
I was going to say I didn't think the library would let you, but go ahead.
Yeah, but they did. They didn't care. I don't know why. So my mom gave me a library card, which turned out to be just as good as a Blockbuster card. So I was just renting horror movie after horror movie. And what I would do is I'd get like a Mad magazine and some other stuff and sandwich it in between.
I was just going to ask, how are you getting to watch these?
Yeah. And then, and I think that's when I got exposed to a lot of the 90s horror films, a lot of slasher stuff, thanks to Scream. Wes Craven brought that back, and in a big way. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, man, I basically got better at sneaking around. Things I couldn't do as a kid, ended up finding all this stuff on my own. And I think I treasured that stuff more than I did even as a kid, because I felt like I discovered it, even though everyone's seen Scream. In my world, that was something else. So, and that actually then bled to other formats. It wasn't just movies. It was like Fangoria, right? Mm-hmm. And then it would
graphic
also
novels,
be graphic novels. Yeah, that's when I first discovered like horror manga. And on a trip to the city with my class, we were going to like this planetarium. There was like a gift shop. In the gift shop, they had all these, like, I don't know why, in a science planetarium, they had manga, horror manga in there. And I can't remember the one I got, man, but I remember I obviously shouldn't have been reading it. Like, it's like...
It's going to be something, what the fuck is his name? He did Uzumaki.
Junji Ito.
Junji Ito, yeah.
No, yeah, like, this was more like hentai horror or something. Because, it was like, like dick tits and,
You're right. Why did they have this in the planetarium?
Yeah.
Right? Like, what does this have to do with planetarium?
Okay, wait a minute. That wasn't in the gift shop. Like, an employee put that down and you picked it up.
I don't know, but
right.
I gave someone money for that, and I took it home with me. So I don't know if that was I have no idea.
It's probably the employee who put it down. Yeah, all right.
Probably. Here, kid, take this. You don't want that. So yeah, drop the science books. You'll learn way more about anatomy here.
Right.
But like I said, one thing kind of fed another thing, and then I then became exposed to anime. That was when I rented it. That was the way I was able to get my horror fix in front of my mom, because a lot of the stuff was like, when you look at it on the surface, it's just a cartoon. And she didn't know what the hell Japanese anime was. But I was like, I want more stuff like that manga I was reading. And I found out, okay, there's cartoons like it. And I remember renting, what was the name? Uratsuki Doji, which is the demon with 1,000 dicks or something like that. You can let your imagination run wild, and it still won't capture the content in that film. So I got that, Wicked City. What was the other one? Demon City. Shijuku, Ninja Scroll. Akira, and all the staples, man. And what's funny is, and this is still part of as a teenager. I came to Florida to visit my grandparents and my father. I convinced them. That was when we watched Ninja Scroll, and I convinced them to rent it for me. And they had instructions from my mom. Hey, he's not allowed to watch all these movies. But they didn't know. Oh, ninjas, sure, that's fine.
This cartoon. This is fine.
Now, I watched Ninja Scroll with my grandmother, who's also deeply religious.
Oh no!
Yeah, and oh my God, there's this really rough rape scene.
Oh God!
Where the rock monster ninja guy basically goes down on one of the ninja women, you know, without her consent.
But it's okay. She had a poison vagina, so he got what was coming to him.
But she had a poison vagina, and he falls apart. And I don't remember. Time stood still for me while I was watching this movie.
Totally forget about the fact that your grandmother's sitting right there, just like, whoa.
I'm just sitting there in a puddle of sweat, and my grandma's behind me. I could feel her behind me, just judging me, right? Like, what are we watching? And all I kept thinking was, what is she going to tell my mom? So after the rape scene and there was some other stuff, was over, I kind of was like, all right, let me turn around and just see how she's kind of gauging this whole thing.
Let me check temperature in the room here. Oh shit, I'm in trouble.
Yeah, she's crocheting. Wasn't even paying attention.
What's crazy is that it's funny you said that. She was actually like knitting something, and then I was looking at it. I was like, oh, Grandma, we could turn it off. And she goes, what? She goes, no, this is a great picture. She calls movies like great picture. She goes, this is a great picture. This has got, wow, this is so much action and suspense.
Just totally oblivious, apparently.
You got lucky.
I'm like, what? Did you not just see what just happened? Like
clearly
10
not.
seconds ago?
Clearly not.
I don't know, man. So I come to find out later that, and this is kind of tied to my childhood. My grandmother, for as religious as she was a horror movie nut.
Oh, there you go.
Huh. Okay, so, not oblivious at all.
No, not oblivious, because she even brought up to me later, hey, you remember that cartoon you saw? What a crazy cartoon. Like, someone made that? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, we got to watch more. Come over. We got to. I say, yeah, I got it.
All right. Your grandma's awesome.
Well,
yeah. So
she might have been playing it the other way, because you know how it is. Like, if you tell a kid, no, and you make it taboo, then they're interested. But if you play it the other way and go, oh, that was really nice, then the kid's like, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, I mean, I that you could definitely take it that way in the beginning, but I mean, we've watched enough where at this point she's like kind of, the one injecting the needle into me. Like, it's just she was there with me. So yeah, we watched lots of disgusting movies together, and she never told my mom or anything, about it. So that was the other way I got my horror fix was with my grandmother.
Yeah. It takes care of one of the questions we usually have in each one of these spaces is, did you have any people you enjoyed horror with? It sounds like your grandmother was kind of your horror running crew, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I think the only thing that she as long as something wasn't as she thought it to be blasphemous, she was fine with it. And I mean, we would find some absolutely depraved things and she'd still be fine with it. She's like, as long as they don't make fun of Jesus, we're okay.
So no Hellraiser 2 then, the whole I am the way thing?
No, I didn't watch that until I was adult.
Was it 2 or 3?
I don't remember.
Yeah, I think Hellraiser 1 had the Jesus wept line at the end before the guys like kind of ripped apart. Now, I don't know if Hellraiser would have, that would have flown with her, but
probably right up until the end.
Yeah, just right up until the end, man. You could just stop it right there.
I think that the title alone probably would have been a pause.
Yeah. That surprised me, man. And I'm actually, I wasn't very close to my grandmother at the time. Horror was a great bridge to that, so it was awesome, man. That was the very positive experience for me.
Nice. Mm-hmm. So you mentioned in your childhood some of the things that you enjoyed were the high body count, the escapism, the rush. What was it about horror in your teenage years that you found interesting?
I was horny as hell, man. I just wanted to see like I think violence and sex were now one and the same. And I'll be honest, there was stuff I had to like unlearn, like going into actual serious relationships.
You mean you don't like this?
Yeah, man. So, but yeah, no, it's really it was a lot of like, are there boobs in this one? Versus how many people die, and I guess the more perverted, the better. And some of that still carries over to the stuff I watch today, but I don't like get my jollies off on it. It's not. I'm not like jerking off to like a Jess Franco movie or something like that. But I think
I'm sure he'll be very disappointed to hear that.
but at the same time, there's something about it. I don't know. That would be an actual couch session to figure that out. But yeah, I like my movies kind of a little sleazy and perverted, and explains I guess why I love Cat Sick Blues so much.
That kind of leads into one of the questions that we had skipped earlier, which is, and this is regarding either fear driving you away from something or desire pulling you towards it. But did the exposure to horror cause you to change your behavior in any way?
Not really. I mean, after like the third murder, I pretty much found
Let's clarify. You're talking about in the films.
No. I'm just no. I mean, no. It didn't affect my behavior in any negative way. I was still. If you spoke to my mom, I was like that good child anyway. Like, I don't know. I think that was the escapism part. I kind of live vicariously through the characters in the movie. I didn't take it with me after the credits finished rolling. So
you mentioned, after you were 18, you were able to participate in Halloween. Were you able to do that in your teenage years, or not at all until you moved out?
When I was a teenager, my mom had remarried. She remained religious and really strong in that. And the man she married was an atheist. And like she was like a conservative Republican, and he was a really left-leaning Democrat. But no, he would be the one to kind of like, I won't tell your mom, what she doesn't know won't hurt her, for the most part, but a lot of things he would kind of be like, let's not piss her off. He still has to sleep next to her. But
there's a quote I like that says, "Children need to learn what the rules are. Parents need to learn when to bend them."
Yeah, no, that's as a father, I can tell you that's accurate.
Yeah, and when not to.
Yeah, and when not to. And with regards to the Halloween thing, it would like unofficially would kind of be like he'd know I'm gonna go play basketball, but I'm just gonna kind of go
trick or treating,
go around with some friends and trick or treat. Yeah, but I wasn't dressed up or anything. I didn't really even want to bother getting all involved in that. Just to have to take it all off. And I was just like, I just want to see what all the hubbub's about. Watch everyone else, hang out with them, and eat candy. Really, that's it.
How did you get the candy if you didn't have a costume, though?
I took it from my friends.
Okay, yeah.
You guys don't need this. I'm doing you a favor.
Exactly. You're right. Saving them a tummy ache.
Exactly.
Or diabetes.
So yeah, that was it. That was the only real way I got any kind of exposure to that stuff, or partook in Halloween activities. Like I said, it wasn't really till I was out of the house that I really got into it.
It's really more fun when you're an adult anyway.
Way more fun.
Was there ever a time where you were actually terrified of something as either a teen or a child? Because we kind of skipped that one as a child too.
Terrified? I mean, you just asked about like a Candyman, like the movies, like a horror movie?
No, I mean reality.
I mean, movies or real life, yeah, just anything that like truly terrified you.
In real life, okay. As a kid, that was easy. Real life, and I'm saying real life from a religious perspective when you're believing in this stuff, right? So going to hell is the scariest shit you can imagine as a kid.
Yeah,
I was picturing worse than what I saw in Hellraiser. You know what I mean? So, as a kid, I was just like, oh, should I buy these Marvel cards? Because there's like Doctor Strange and he practices the dark arts. I don't want to go to hell for Doctor Strange.
Right.
But, that was it as a kid. And then, that stuff kind of subsides. You realize how silly that is. Not to make light of anyone who still kind of feels that way. But for me, that didn't really work for me anymore.
It has less of an impact as you get older.
Yeah. So then as a teenager, what scared me in real life, it was all like, it was just regular teenage stuff, like girls and relationships and moving out one day and getting a job. I can't think of anything like, I do have something. That would be lean closer to horror. In the neighborhood I lived in was, predominantly a white neighborhood. And we were one of the few Hispanics living there. I remember one time coming home from high school, some background. My high school, there was a lot of racial tension between the brown and black students and the white students and included in that were anyone who was like Korean, Chinese, Japanese. It didn't matter. I don't know why, but that was the case. And I remember one time walking home. I was in high school, and a car pulled up next to me. It was like I can't remember what kind. It was a red car. Pulled up next to me, and in it were like three guys with their heads shaved. And I was like kind of dumb to all that stuff. I didn't really, from where I grew up, that stuff wasn't something I was exposed to or anything like that, or I was just shielded well from it. But it turns out those were skinheads, right? And basically, the one who was in the passenger seat called out to me. He goes, "Hey, you go to Bayside High School?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man. What's it to you?" And he's just like, "Hey, I don't want to see you walking down this neighborhood again." And I was like, "Why?" And the other guy, like, who's driving, I could see him, he kind of like looked over and kind of made that motioning, like slashing the neck kind of motion.
Jesus.
And he's like, "If we see you over here again, you're dead." And I don't think they got the reaction they were expecting. I kind of just like, "Is this real? Like, are you guys for real, or is this like a joke?" I'm like, "You guys ain't gonna do shit to me. Like, really? You can't, like, let me see you try." And a lot of that was, I don't know, like, you grow up from, I guess, when you're in the projects, you kind of been taught to kind of stand up for yourself and not really let that kind of stuff. So it kind of felt silly. Like, I'm like, "What is this? Is this like a real thing? You guys actually wasted your time to follow me up here? Like, slow down when I'm sure you have somewhere to go and be Nazis over there or something." And a Nazi meeting, or like just to tell me this. And like, who am I anyway? Like, it was stupid. But then I come to, learn about it. It scared me in retrospect. And
yeah.
And I was like, "Holy shit, that's a real thing." I'm like, "Yo, I could have been cut. I don't even know." Then there was other things that I ran into that kind of stuff, later on, when my parents weren't there to shield me, and it opened my eyes to what was happening in the world. So I think like racism and stuff like that was like real life horror for me. And that would probably be my biggest fear as a teenager.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that, how can I say this? So there are some people who they're looking for a victim, and if the person's not afraid, they're not going to enjoy it. And then there are definitely other people who don't give a shit whether or not you're afraid. They're going to enjoy it either way. And those are the ones that you have to really be afraid of. But, the first group, you can, if you're not afraid, then typically they'll leave you alone. So, I can understand, like you say, in retrospect, there could be some fear of, because you don't know which group it is until after you've made your move. So,
yeah. And my mom did tell me, when I told her, she was like, "You're an idiot. You shouldn't have done that." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't even," she's like, "No, don't, not with those guys." I was like, "Okay. All right."
I don't know. I think I would agree, because I've been in a similar situation too, where the thing that probably would have been a life-changing event for me was put off because I told him, "You're either going to have to kill me or I'm going to kill you, or die trying."
Right.
And if I had not done that, I might be not here today or in a very different place. I think that's a very important thing that you have to teach kids, is you do have to stand up for yourself, because what's the other thing that happens is, okay, so if those three kids that were in the car were the second type of people that I mentioned that would have fucked with you either way, well, okay, well, you're probably going to have that situation either way, but at least you could have avoided the first group of people that would have been frightened off by that. So, anyway, off topic.
Somewhat.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's good, man.
I'd say that's kind of a common thread in either, sometimes childhood, but mostly adolescence, is like when you're faced with something that's a life-threatening thing, you're invincible when you're at that age, so you throw it off, like, yeah, whatever. And then you go back in retrospect and realize, oh yeah, my life was actually in danger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, some scary stuff, man.
Well, the reason that I say that, what I said, is because my experience has been, not everybody has that I'm invincible attitude. And then some of those people do wind up getting victimized. I've known a few people who were the type that wouldn't stand up for themselves, and sometimes some bad things happened. Fortunately, I was taught, I don't know who taught it to me or where I picked it up, but I picked up that attitude of, no, I am going to be the one to stand up, and you're either going to have to kill me or die trying.
Yeah, same thing. I was taught to right off the bat just bark louder, and it usually works. I mean,
Yeah.
people get surprised, especially I'm a small guy, but when you just like turn around and just like you're not even phased, or you don't give way you don't give any ground up when they're challenging you like that, it kind of surprises people.
Well, they don't want to fight.
Then they're just like, oh, okay, you called them out on their bluff.
They don't want to. Or maybe it's not a complete bluff, but they want
not a complete bluff. Yeah, but
they want an easy target.
Yeah, it's like, I'll find someone else, someone who flinch.
Yeah.
It's 2 for flinching. Did we ask if you had any scary dreams in adolescence? I mean, the recurring woman in the rocking chair, did it follow you through teenage years, I guess?
I killed that bitch.
Nice.
No. I haven't had any. No, nothing that comes to mind. I think okay, I do. It was more like end of the world kind of stuff, as far as like, and I don't know why, and maybe it could have been like the war in Iraq or something. I don't even know. There was always this fear I had subconsciously that at any moment, there was going to be like a missile launched at the country or whatever. World War III would start or something like that.
That's was an understandable fear.
Well, particularly for the area you were living. Like when 9/11 happened, I had already moved back to Florida, but my dad was still up there. You were, I'm guessing, still living in that area at the time.
Oh, actually, I was attending college here when it happened.
Okay, so
yeah, I saw it live when the second plane hit. But yeah, I wasn't in New York. My family was, so I was scared shitless, of course. But
the dreams were happening before that.
The dreams were happening, way before that, because I was in my 20s then. But yeah, it was bad. I remember thinking like the dream always was like, and I wasn't even in New York, I don't think, when I had these dreams. I think I was already in Florida. But I remember thinking like, I'd see like the Manhattan skyline, and I could see like a missile dropping, like that Terminator 2 sequence, and I don't even know what was the root of that, why I was having those dreams, but that was like the one I had the most, it reoccurred the most. It wasn't the same dream, but that theme of like a nuclear holocaust kind of thing.
I mean, I'd say that's been kind of a common paranoia / legitimate fear for, I don't know, 70 years now, ever since Cold War.
Yeah. I think what it might be, because I think my teenage years were like some of the best years of my life, really, really were. And there might have been a fear of losing, or just like, hey, this is so good, like, am I going to wake up from this? And and I think maybe it subconsciously manifested like that, just like seeing the world end, and I don't get to have fun anymore.
So it sounds like overall in your adolescence, I forgot to ask this question again in childhood, but like overall in childhood, it sounds like it was kind of a negative experience as far as horror goes. Like everything still kind of scared you legitimately, whereas in adolescence, teenage years, you were on the search for more and gorier horror movies, and sneaking off to the library and things like that. And it sounds like it was more of overall a positive experience in your adolescence, would you say?
Yeah, that would be accurate. As a kid, it had a negative. I don't want to say negative. I guess I was scared. It actually scared me. But and then as I got older, I was seeking it out. But yeah, I'd say that's accurate.
More of a game when you're a teenager, like what new treasure can you find next?
Right, that's exactly it, and that's something that's never gone away to this day.
Yeah, and I was trying to think about that myself while you guys were talking. I was wondering, how can I say this? For some people, they have a very early interest in horror that then kind of influences the rest of their life. And then there are other people, and you may be one of these people. What I'm about to say is probably more true for me. I was not interested in horror as a child, but as I got older, there were things about it that interested me. And so I was trying to think back to some of the things you talked about in terms of your childhood, and say, was there like a defining factor that made it a strong attraction to you throughout your life, or was that a separate period of your life where, like Chris just said, it was more just fear, and then that separate from the attraction that came in your teenage years? How do you feel about that? Do you think it was like there was always this strong attraction, or was it a fear early on and then changed to attraction?
Yeah, I think it was a fear that led to the attraction. I think everyone, I feel comfortable saying most people, if not everyone, has a morbid curiosity. You know what I mean? There's something that, because death is, everyone has to deal with it. So there's always something about it that you're kind of curious about. And I think, because there's so much death in horror, it's natural to kind of gravitate towards that to understand it better.
Mhm.
Outside of just that kind of innate morbid curiosity anyone would have, I think it was just the experience that kind of set it off and said, well, this is how I want to keep, learning about death and all that stuff. And like, the whole religion thing, it sure helped.
Yeah.
But then again,
Subconsciously, maybe?
yeah, I mean, like I said, the morbid curiosity thing is what why I gravitated towards reading Revelations over and over and over again. And I think horror gave me like something more tangible. Getting shocked by it and then realizing I'm okay. I think that's it. That was it. It's kind of like, well, let's do it again. That was fun.
Like the first time you go on a roller coaster. You're afraid of it first, and then you're like, one more time.
Yeah.
I think that moves us on to the final and third phase in adult years. What were some of your influences or things horror that you can think of in adulthood? Well, I think I can think of one that we share a common thread with.
I don't know what you're talking about. So it's weird. I really wasn't watching movies the way I was before. I was a lot more involved with. It was my first serious relationship. I wasn't really into the horror genre the way I am now, or even before this. Yeah, it was school, and there was a lot of other things happening at that point in my life that took my attention away from it. Because life happened so fast, I think I grew into like a depression a little bit. University and girlfriend and and a job and all this stuff. It's like, hey, preparing to be an adult. I think that was like enough horror for me. And also at that point, that transition, that was in the middle of that, I had become an atheist. But I remember when I was going through this depression, I kind of fell back on my religion, while not the same way that my mom and father raised me. It did help me. It helped me get through some really, really dark times. Once I came out of that, well, that's when it was party time again. It's time to start watching horror movies. I'm 39 years old, and it wasn't until 2015, Chris, that I got back into horror movies. And you're talking about since, man, like 2003 up until that point, I wasn't really into it.
I can totally relate. Yeah, went through a similar situation myself where just shit wasn't fun. Not good times, and you can't focus on things like entertainment and seeking out your fun new horror movies. Just like I got shit to do, I have things to take care of.
Right, and it didn't help either that the genre itself was going through its own transition into the. You had the whole French extremity wave, and you had American filmmakers trying to one up them, like Hostel, all that kind of stuff. And
and then you had the whole paranormal aspect of found footage films, which you can just skip that whole. My opinion, anyway.
So I think it was just more. If I would have ingested that stuff, I would have just been more depressed. I don't think it would have helped me any. And then it wasn't until I got married, kids, a full-time job, a stable job, and my own house. I became friends with this guy, David Ronsky, who was someone who worked at the same place I work at. And we were introduced by a mutual friend of ours. And turns out this guy was like, all about horror. I mean, he was like a long lost friend, and that rekindled my love for the genre and for film just in general. I was really just out of it, So, we used to have like, it was like his idea, let's get together. And I kind of missed out on a lot. So he's like, oh, let me catch you up on stuff. We'd get together and have like movie nights and all this stuff. And then, it was our mission to try to find stuff that no one else had seen. That's what kind of got us into like indie horror, like really low budget stuff. And that's where I started to fall in love with Troma. It was like kindling. It kind of like just got the fire lit up again. And I was really, really excited for horror movies. All that energy and excitement and passion led directly into the creation of my website. And, or I should say our website. We started it because we wanted to find more movies like Slaughtered Vomit Dolls or whatever. And I hate that movie, but I wanted to see more like avant-garde stuff and things that just like maybe no one else has seen, like just weird shit. Like the Guinea Pig series, things that were like, you got to really kind of dig deep to find. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the internet at the time, it wasn't really as, all that kind of stuff like YouTube wasn't as like much of a proliferation as it is now, which made it actually more exciting, when you found something. So 2015, we started the website with a very selfish goal. Let's convince people to send us their movies and we'll just write some like shitty review and we got to watch their movie. And I'm so sorry. I hate to say, I can't believe I admitted that. Like I've got a lot of like independent filmmakers and coming to me like, hoping I'm sincere when I review their stuff, which I am. I promise I am. When we first created it, that wasn't our intention.
You went professional.
We went professional. Yeah. As much as we could. Yeah. Right. So that was it. That was our gateway. The 13th Floor website was our gateway to the kind of horror films that I love now and kind of informed my mentality, towards the genre. That's, I think, the next year, because we started at the end of 2015, but the very next year is when, and we were getting all these like little tiny short films or whatever. And the first big one outside of that Dolly Deadly, the one that I was saying that Heidi Moore had created, we got Cat Sick Blues. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you like how transformative that was as a horror fan and as someone who was kind of rediscovering themselves as a film lover. And then you find out that this guy spent only this amount of money on it and used this, like it was insane. Dave Jackson does not know the influence he has had on my life. I know he probably thinks, Jerry, he plays the whole, Cat Sick Blues obsessed horror fan or whatever. And yeah, it's true. My life has actually changed because of that movie for the better. So asking me as an adult, like my relationship with horror, a lot of it stems, down to the website and to that movie, which is then just, lit a fire under my ass. And I couldn't get enough of the kind of movie like that. And I wanted to make movies myself. And it was something I didn't even know I wanted to do until I watched that movie. Yeah. And I have 2 short films, one directly informed by Cat Sick Blues, like one is like kind of a creepy one, but man, we took off, man. We were watching everything and anything we could. That's when we even caught up on all the real, like the video nasties and stuff from the 2000s, and since then it's been great. That's how significant that movie was.
And I thought about saying this at the very start of the call, and see, Chris and I have a list of guests that we would like to interview, and we also made some notes about who they are and what they're known for, what role they played, they're actress, actor, producer, writer. And Chris had written in the field of what they're best known for, Cat Sick Blues, Sick Blues. And to be completely honest, I had forgotten that he had told me about there's the movie Cat Sick Blues. And then the movie that you created was basically a movie about a fan of the movie, Cat Sick Blues.
Yes. Yeah,
so when I was going through the guest sheet, I actually deleted it because I thought it was a typo. I thought he had typed the Sick Blues part twice for accident.
Oh man, that's funny you say that, because I've had conversations with Dave about the title of the movie, and I've apologized to him. I'm like, man, this is the stupidest freaking title I could have chosen. I've got people that come to me and go, "Hey man, is there any way I could get a link to watch Cat Sick Blues?"
And you're like,
I'm like,
talk to Dave.
I mean, I can give you Dave's Facebook, and you can add him, or you can search for Cats Take Blues. But I'm not the guy, dude.
Right, and likewise, he's told me, he's like, yeah, he's had people, come to him confused. I was like, what's this? What's this movie? Is this the sequel, the official sequel? I'm like, yeah. This is sanctioned by Dave himself. This is the sequel. But
I like the title. I think it's clever. It's Cat Sick Blues, Sick Blues.
Right. Yeah,
you are sick over the sickness of the film.
Yes, and I thought it made sense at the time.
And I did know this. Chris did tell me that. I just had forgotten about it. So, and that's what occurred to me as we were going through the intro. The light bulb came on, and I was like, shit. We should probably clear that up at the start of the call. But, hopefully the listeners will get through to this part and they'll be like, oh, now I understand.
Yeah. And whoever is listening, I'm going to be putting my short out there for the public again. I had taken it off for, so I can submit it to some festivals, but you really, really should see the Cat Sick Blues movie before watching the short film.
Yeah. Puts it in context.
Yeah. You'll still get some laughs and stuff just seeing my stupid face, and the stuff that happens in there, but it makes way more sense when you watch the movie, and you'll catch some little, Easter eggs and things like that. But
the three things you've really mentioned, other than your own body of work, was Trauma, Dolly Deadly, and Cat Sick Blues. Anything else really jump out at you as being impactful in the horror business that you were exposed to now in your adult life?
Yeah, it's because, like I said, that stuff was the website was kind of a gateway to everything else. So as far as being impactful, it's basically the relationships I've.
It's the friends you made along the way.
Yeah, it's the friends I've made along the way, like you guys. Like if it wasn't for 13th Floor, I wouldn't even be here talking to you guys about this stuff. So yeah, it's helped me like tremendously in that regard, and developing these relationships, and that's had a massive impact because I get inspired every time there's a new film sent to me to review. My mindset is different now when I review these films versus when I first started, and I approach these things with a different mindset because I've developed two on my own. So stuff that I used to give them shit about, like I completely don't do that anymore.
Yeah, and you've seen the other side of the fence, right?
I'm seeing the other side of the fence, yeah. And there was an interview I had conducted with Richard Roundtree and his guys, and they said the worst thing you could do for someone at that level is just, this kind of flippant attitude towards their work. Or say they're lazy, or just say, oh, this was shit. You don't have to like a movie. You can acknowledge the problems it has, right? But man, I'm telling you, if there's a 2-hour movie and you made it through and you see it's an actual movie, it's not because they're lazy if it has problems. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's a different kind of appreciation for stuff, man. Like people are busting their ass for it, and I will always acknowledge that.
Let's go back to Cat Sick Blues for a minute, because you had mentioned how this was so impactful to you that it really changed your life in a lot of ways. Well, what is it about the movie that impacted you so much? Like,
it's multiple things. So I just can't say enough about how well put together the comedy, the melding of comedy and horror. Remember I talked to you about like things being sleazy. You get it in this one.
Yeah, it is present.
And I think the things that informed that movie in Dave are the same kind of things that the same kind of horror movies that at the time I didn't know I loved, but turned out to be the case. So like Tetsuo the Iron Man and movies like that, I ended up finding out after the fact and catching up. Basically kind of like, I don't want to say stalking Dave, but because he was so open to communicating with us, and which was also a big thing, given how small we were. We just started. He was very warm and welcoming. Him, Matthew Vaughn, and Sharon Donovan all were willing to talk to us about anything. We were able to pick their brains, and that was 2015 or 2016 rather, at the beginning of. And to this day, I'm still, hey, like asking like pointers about things or movie suggestions and stuff like that, or he'll drop some things he thinks I would like, or he'll even tell me, hey, I just finished doing this special feature for this movie, you want to watch it? And it's like that kind of stuff keeps motivating you to want to do it yourself. So I think it was the movie itself, And it was also just how
open and helpful the whole production crew behind it are. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes even beyond those three guys. It goes the people, the crew as well that helped make it. I've had communication with them, and it's been awesome all the time. All that stuff was instrumental. It gave me the confidence to do it, and I got to see people who failed at it. I don't want to say failed, but maybe the end result wasn't what they wanted, and I got to see the ones that were exactly what they wanted, and all that stuff kind of factored into that. But them especially, because they've let me in on everything that I've wanted to know. So yeah, that's why. And I guess your question was why it's so as important as it was.
So one of the things that you mentioned earlier that you didn't touch on here, you mentioned that you'd heard that it was a fairly low budget and that the person basically financed it themselves, which kind of gave you the realization that you could do something like this yourself.
Right. So yeah, and it was a Kickstarter, kind of thing, but he also did put up a lot of his own money in savings to kind of finish paying off for the rest of the production. That's the part that kind of was like, hey, Jerry, you could do this. This is, okay, he spent this much and got this out of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you find out the ways they got those things done, I'm like, well, shit, man, all right. I just want to tell a story. Just tell a story. And a lot of it was the encouragement of, hey, don't worry so much about your budget and stuff like that. You want to say something, say it.
Yeah, so just get it done.
Just get it done. And you'll be surprised, like, how satisfying that is when you stop obsessing over this little detail. Oh, I'm not shooting on a Sony A7 III. Like, give a shit about that, man. Just shoot it, tell your story. There will be an audience if you're being genuine. It opened my eyes to the fact that movies aren't just Hollywood, And that was, like I said, that was that movie and me also having the website and being exposed to others like it. So I saw how far, the indie film can go when you have a real passion for it. So,
I'm sitting here being reminded, I'm making some notes and being reminded of a quote, which I'll come to in a second. So it's sounding like, from piecing this together, you had a list of films already that you had reviewed and you had your opinions of what was good and bad in those. And you get to a position where you find, what, I could do this myself. And also, apparently, you had something that you wanted to say, because if you didn't have anything to say, then you wouldn't have done it. And so this is all kind of leading up to this quote that I really like, which is about luck. And, a lot of people talk about being lucky or unlucky. And so this quote says, basically, luck is opportunity plus preparation. And I've always liked that, because if you think about people who are lucky, it's because they had an opportunity and they were prepared for it. And people who say that they're unlucky, often it's a situation where they had an opportunity, but they weren't prepared for it. Mm-hmm. And so it's sounding to me like you've had this really nice sequence of events where you had the preparation and apparently you had something to say, and now you have the opportunity, so you're taking it.
Absolutely. I think the website was kind of like our, the preparation part of it. Yeah, talking to, kind of more just watching Catsick Blues and learning about how it was made and all that stuff, having interviews and getting to kind of dive deep into the production of that stuff. And that was like that was one of the first interviews we had where, as extensive as it was. Yeah, it was kind of like, okay, well, I kind of know what to do now. So I definitely know I want to say something, but it was never just so this, when I made what I made, it wasn't actually made for anyone but myself. It was only made for me. And it was a way to cut my teeth on filmmaking, kind of like a dry run kind of thing. It wasn't until I showed it to Dave. And let me tell you, this was the scariest thing I've ever done.
I'm sure.
I was ready to just cancel my Facebook accounts, close the website if this guy said one negative thing. And again, that experience also played into why I've changed how I approach other people's films. When I gave it to him, just because I thought he would appreciate it, wasn't really to say, hey, should I put this out in festivals? Or it was just you know me as someone who's Cat Sick Blues obsessed. Here's something I was working on that's kind of related to that. And his reaction and what he told me after was like, okay, I want to make movies. It was like right away. Yeah, I just want to keep doing this. This is so much fun. Even though I can't do it as much as I'd like, that doesn't go away. And it is a passion that I want to pursue, something I want to chase. So it all starts.
I'm kind of curious. You mentioned that you felt like you had something to say, but you also said that this Cat Sick Blues was a way of cutting your teeth. So, and I know you are still working on other things then. So I'm guessing that there's other things that you want to say that weren't necessarily addressed in Cat Sick Blues. Yeah,
absolutely. Cat Sick Blues is it's like laser focused on one thing, which is my obsession with Cat Sick Blues.
But then the next logical question there is, so what do you want to say?
The things that I want to say next are moments that were like transformative, things that like affected me as a kid or other kids. So to be very specific, I'm going to stop being vague. The next thing I want to do is make a short film where a child walks in on his parents having sex, and this is how he learns about sex. I've done that. Actually, we could have used that as one of the scariest things that's happened to me as a kid. There it is. So now as an adult, sex is like a beautiful thing. As a kid, though, when you see your parents having sex, it's the opposite. It's the most disgusting, vile thing you can imagine. And I want that to be illustrated in a short film, like in a literal sense. So the kid walks in, sees his parents having sex, and then we get a transition to like what it would be like kind of Bobby's World thing, where we see from his perspective. And it's the nastiest Uratsuki Doji level kind of gross shit that's happening on the screen. And it's going to be tentacles and monster rubber suit, all kinds of slimy stuff. So, and I think isn't that like most people? It's just life experiences kind of inform the movies they're making,
So other than this coworker, oh shit, where did I write that down? David, sorry. So other than this coworker, David, you talk about the relationships that you've built along the way. Other than the ones in the making of your shorts, what other, as Chris likes to call them, what other horror crew do you have? Like friends, family?
The people I rope in, man, that are tired of hearing me yap, like my wife, my kids. Dude, no one else. This is still like early days for me, and I haven't really built some kind of like filmmaking entourage. I
didn't mean it as an entourage. I just mean like a social group. How can I say this? Part of the
like-minded friends.
I mostly get that part of it from Letterboxd. I don't know if you're familiar with Letterboxd, but it's a kind of like a review site, user reviews. And it's got a fantastic community. And I think I've replaced my in real life friends, people that would be physically here with me, with people that are kind of virtual now. Like it's my virtual friends. But yeah, that's it. Really, I don't. It's not a lot. I don't have a lot of people that are into horror.
It's not really a matter of having a lot or a little. It was just a yes or no kind of that. Yes, you do have. You also gain the social aspect of enjoyment out of this whole thing, in addition to all the other positive benefits that you're getting out of it.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. You're right. It's kind of more. It's more of a common theme in this stage in adulthood too. Is just you run into so many more people and make more connections online, so you kind of develop that virtual web of friends and like-minded individuals.
How about Halloween as an adult? You kind of broached this earlier.
Oh yeah, now I'm all about it, man. Like if we do the 31 days or whatever, marathon horror movie after horror movie. We take the kids trick or treating.
Oh,
yeah. We do everything. Goat sacrifices.
Got to do your goat sacrifices.
Do you wear the pants too?
Yeah. No. Yeah. So just I guess I kind of vicariously live through my kids now. So some of the stuff that I didn't get to do as a kid, I let them indulge in it. So we get to go through it together, and I get to be a kid again, and they get to just be a kid, and it's nice.
So looking back over your life, and this doesn't have to be a horror movie. It doesn't have to be your favorite, but just numerically speaking, what movie would you say you've watched more times than any other?
Watched more times than any other, The Fly. That's my all-time favorite movie.
The first one.
The first one, which if you follow me on social media and stuff, that should be apparent. Like, there's always some weird nod to The Fly, either in my name or picture of the avatar. This is something. But yeah, it's not even close. I just worship that movie. Love it.
Okay.
And Cronenberg.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Cronenberg.
if I had to pick one other one behind The Fly that I guess I'm constantly throwing on, I would say, and I'm like, I'm scanning my shelf right now, and I'm just, it's going to be Creepshow, because I like fun when movies also make me laugh, even if it's a horror film like that. So I love the comedy, I love how it's infused seamlessly into Creepshow while still being creepy. And that's up there for me.
Plus, Creepshow is kind of a package deal. You get 4 in 1?
4 in 1? Wait, is it 4 or 5?
I think it's 5.
I think it's 5.
It's been a while.
5. It's 5 stories.
So if you like the comedy out of the Creepshow, what is it that you like about The Fly?
There's comedy in The Fly as well. It's like a sad kind of humor to the way
shot in bright.
How like there's comedy and tragedy.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. And that's what that movie is. The poor guy is like invents this thing, and he's about to like just change the world, but because he thinks his girlfriend's cheating on him, that changes the whole movie. Like, the guy ends up turning himself into a fly. It's insane. And they just the movie runs with it all the way to the end, and to its logical conclusion. I can't help but laugh in a sad way when this guy's ears falling off, his dick's falling off, and he's vomiting on donuts, and he still kind of has a sense of humor about it. A lot of my favorites have comedy in them. American Werewolf in London, like I said, Fright Night, Lost Boys, Evil Dead. I could pull up my letterbox and see, and I guarantee you most of the ones that are up on the top are funny in some way. So
that actually kind of leads into the next question, which is, do you see any common threads about what kind of horror you like? Is it cannibalism, occult, metaphysical? It sounds to me like your common thread is the comedy.
Comedy. If you can smile through all the nasty stuff that's happening, I like horror movies that kind of incorporate all like other genres into them, from like Ari Aster and Eggers. Lighthouse is definitely a horror film. It's definitely a comedy. It's definitely a drama. Like, it's got a bit of everything. Same for Midsummer. That's one of the funniest freaking movies I've ever seen. Involving people jumping 100 feet face first into a stone. And being sledgehammered in the face and stuff like that.
That shit was hilarious.
It's hilarious. Yeah, it's like this guy comes with an Acme hammer. Okay, like, what?
He totally did.
Yeah, it's like, man. Ari Aster has to have the same sense of humor I have. Like, I feel it. Like, it's like when everything, even Hereditary. That's a way darker movie. Yeah. But even there's some stuff that you can't help but just kind of giggle, man. Love it.
I would agree. I would consider Hereditary a dark comedy. It's like the whole social ineptitude and dysfunctional family angle of it. Like, these people are so dysfunctional. And
then like the kid at the end, like just jumping out the window, man. Like, it's just
right? You just need to like a that's all folks moment.
Yeah. It's so ridiculous, man. So yeah, I think the further it goes, like, the more absurd it gets. I dig it more.
What is it that you think you like about that?
About the comedy specifically?
Well, actually, the last thing you said was about it being ridiculous, and I don't know if you mean in terms of humor or extremism, but maybe both.
Both. Yeah, both. Yeah. Really. Just, I like absurdity, and all that kind of stuff. Like there's a scene in Catsy Blues where Ted's jerking off to his cat as it's being overfed. What? Like, why? And then it explodes, and he's still masturbating as like cat chunks fly into his mouth. I'm like, I'm like disgusted and in tears. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, absurdity. I love it, man. The crazier, the better.
So this kind of leads into the next question too. Then, we talk about genre mixing, absurdity, crazier the better. And the last question is, okay, so why horror?
Why horror?
Because, for example, the genre mixing and the absurdity. I mean, you could like Mel Brooks films for
Because it's the only one I've ever found, like a cat dildo. I'm being silly, but I'm being serious. Like,
Okay, well, yeah.
There's still very specific things and traits. And I'm sure you can have this argument, a whole nother podcast where, hey, is this a horror film or is it a thriller? But like, it's just, I guess if you think of it as kind of like a scale, but it's more, I like stuff leaning on that side of the scale.
Well, the last question there, the why horror thing, is really sort of just an opportunity maybe to, to bring something up and see if it, how can I say this? In your case, in your interview, the adult, teenage years, and childhood sort of each have different things about them that are sort of defining. For example, in the childhood, it was the adrenaline rush and the stuff about the taboo. In the teenage years, you commented on the violence and the sex, and now your adult years, it's about having something to say and being expressive, while tying back to the other things from your childhood and adolescence. But it doesn't sound like there's really one core thing that has been throughout your entire life, which is fair. That doesn't have to be the case for everybody. But the last question there is sort of an opportunity to sort of revisit that and see if there is one core thing that ties through. And it's okay. I mean, it doesn't sound like there is in your case, but that's all it was. It was just an opportunity to see if it was.
Right. I'm sorry, man. I'm all over the map.
I gotta be so volatile, man.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I can't think of one either. It's just this kind of constant,
actually. Wait a minute. You kind of laughed about that, but now that I think about it, that's sort of a thing in itself of being all over the map. Because that ties in with the genre mixing and the absurdity and crazier the better. So if you don't mind my going off on a possible tangent here, is there something about...
Well, are you trying to say that me being all over the map could be a thing in itself?
Like,
okay, and I think I see where you're going with that. And I think if I'm going to tie that to something and that becoming a thing, that is because as a kid, and my upbringing being so conservative and my mom's thumb being pressed down on me so hard, I didn't have a life where I got to take a taste of this and a taste of that and be all over the map, so to speak. So now that that thumb's been lifted, I'm trying to consume as much as possible.
I think we may have just answered the question then. Rebellion.
So there you go. Rebellion.
Yeah.
Sure, I'll take it. It makes me sound cooler.
Well, I mean, that kind of underlines all three of the things that we just talked about, like the adrenaline rush and the taboo. You're rebelling against the boundary that your parents set.
I think you're right. No, I think you're right. And not to just constantly keep talking about it, but I think a lot of that ties down to the religion. And you always challenge everything that you've been brought up, to believe as a child. And the longer you are brought up in something, or I don't want to say like oppressed or anything like that, but basically just in that
brought
bubble,
up, surrounded by, yeah,
right, yeah. The moment you release, the crazier you're gonna go, and to kind of see what you were missing, but or see you're gonna rebel harder.
Yeah.
In my case. And I think I've rebelled as hard as I feel comfortable with,
and that's natural too.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one.
Yeah,
Chris can relate. I think that was the key word for him too.
Oh yeah,
it's funny because I still kind of I will put the thumb back on myself when my mom is around me for certain things.
Well, as part of like childhood and adolescent, the stages of childhood growth. I mean, there are parts of your childhood where identifying with your parent is very important, and you want to show that you're very much like your parent and you're clinging to them, and then there comes a different point in your life where the identification of yourself as being different from your parents is very important, and also different from your friends. The individual individualism becomes a very important thing, and one doesn't rule out the other. You can both want to identify yourself as being an individual while also wanting to identify with someone as being similar to them. So,
yeah, I agree with you. I partly define myself, with my mom, like with the things that she's about. Not in whole, you know what I mean? I've got, as I've grown up, I've kind of figured out who I actually am, but there's always that part of my identity is it's not something I can escape from or even want to separate myself from. And that stuff does still stem, from my parents. And I'm fine with it.
Wrong with that.
I'd say that wraps us up, man. Thanks for being here, Jeremiah. It was quite a pleasure going through this interview with you. And anybody out there listening, if you do want to check out more of this awesome gentleman's works, then you can see them at the 13th floor, which is ttf13.com.
Yep.
And we'll have a link to that on the website.
Yay! Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll give you guys a link to the Lighthouse short film, and once I publish the other one, the Cat Sick Blues one, I'll send that your way as well, so you can update it.
Awesome. Yeah, we'll include that on our on our part of the website as well.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. That was awesome.
No problem. Thank you for being here, and thank you to anyone out there listening. Again, please do visit us at horrormakesUshappy.com. We have a schedule posted to show who we're going to be interviewing next, as well as people who we'd like to interview. So if you do know any of these guests and you have any contacts, you can send them our way. Otherwise, just stop by the website and let us know how we're doing. HorrorMakesUsHappy.com.